Hey, it's Lloyd with the Food Connector, and I'm here today with Ryan Milani. Ryan is a big help to us in terms of all things website, digital marketing. He's a Google certified partner, knows all about Google Analytics, AdWords, etc. And so we're going to pick his brain and have him answer some questions that I get asked all the time. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So one of the questions that I get asked real commonly is like, as you know, most of our clients are in the food world, either food service distributors or manufacturers, and they'll say, hey, so I have a website, isn't that enough?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, it's a good step to have a website, but people have to find that website. And so, there's a lot of different ways that people could find that website. And there's the traditional kind of advertising where you put it up on a billboard, you have a television commercial, radio, print materials, trade shows. But then there's also the web world, which a lot of people on mobile devices and on desktop and tablets, and they might find it through organic search through Google or Bing or Yahoo, or they might find it through a social channel or somebody sharing it with them, even text messaging. So there's lots of different ways to get your website out there. But if you don't really do anything to get it out there, even search engines might not even be picking you up.
Okay, and I know with your background in social media advertising, website development, and you know all about Google Analytics, search engine optimization, and Google AdWords. But I think there's a lot of curiosity, but also fear about Google AdWords. If we can concentrate there for a minute,
Yeah.
and kind of if I was a local or regional food distributor, how do I use AdWords to get new leads?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you're paying to be number one in Google search at the very basic level of an ad account. If you're just running like a search ad in Google Ads, then you're essentially paying to be number one when people type in certain search queries that you want to show for. So I mean, that's the best way to kind of like visualize it. But Google Ads also has a lot of other campaign types that you can run, like Performance Max, which allows you to show ads on YouTube and Google Discovery, on Gmail, on search, and just websites and apps. So that becomes a little bit more of a black box as far as where your ads are showing, but you do send Google audience signals of how you want to target them.
Okay.
So, but with the one thing I recommend to a lot of, especially food service, is to start with that search campaign and target the keywords that are most valuable to you, because at the end of the day, people are going to run a search looking for what you offer, and that's the best way to get in front of them. And it's also one of the most measurable ways to get in front of them. You can see the actual search terms that people are typing in. You can kind of use search triggers to like determine when you want your ad to show, but then you can actually diagnose and look at the actual search terms that people are typing in to further look at relevancy and quality. So it's one of the most transparent ways to do any kind of digital advertising, and
Yeah,
one of the most measurable.
I was going to say, I like the fact when you say measurable. I mean, it seems to me like there's a lot about advertising and marketing that is hard to quantify. And this seems like something that you can get data that really helps you with what you're hoping to achieve.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
say, so I used to run a food distributor, and I guess one of my questions, if you were approaching me about this, I'd say I'm not nationwide. I'm just local in the San Francisco Bay Area. Aren't I too small to benefit from AdWords?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you're advertising, but yeah, even at the very local level, Google Ads doesn't have a minimum budget that you need to spend, and it's a very flexible budgeting platform. So you can spend $10 a day, $1 a day, or you could spend 10 grand a day. Google likes to make money too. But so it's very flexible. And then if you were to pair, there's geo targeting, so you can show your ads only as a certain region. So you
Uh-huh.
can pretty much fence in your the radius of where you want to cover, and you can use like several different radiuses to build a map of where you want your service areas to be. But you can also use keywords to limit how you show as well. So If you're in Atlanta, for example, you might show like food service supplies in Atlanta, and then people that are hyper local looking for those things, you might drill down the targeting that way. Or you just show in that target geography, and then you could go a little bit broader and say like food service supplies near me or something like that. So
Okay, so with keywords, then you can really fine tune kind of the person that in your example, they're typing that they're motivated, they're looking for a solution, right? And that's where I see
yeah.
the beauty in AdWords.
Yeah, it's the low hanging fruit. I mean, really, and there's these are the people that are in the moment of search, as Google calls it, that are actively seeking out your products. Now, there's other ad types that you can do, like the Performance Max or display campaign, and that you still qualify people into your advertising bucket. So they might have done this search or showed these characteristics of being interested in your products, over the last week or so, and now you're showing them an ad when they're on like ESPN or something like that. But in the moment of search, people are going to Google or Bing and typing in those search terms, and that's the low hanging fruit. Another way to look at it is like the traditional advertising. You put up a television commercial or a billboard, and you might be targeting yellow cars, but not every car that drives by is a yellow car. Here with Google, you don't have to pay that large fee to get up a billboard and show it to a bunch of irrelevant people. You're actually paying for the relevant people. And
Hmm.
not all of them are going to be great hits. Some of them might be people looking to sell you services. And that's why it's really important to measure with a conversion when they hit your site. So if you have like a buy now button, or like a contact us or a get a quote, and if you're measuring those completions as a conversion, then you can send that signal to Google and say, hey, get us more of these. This is what we're after. And Google will look at that algorithmically and determine what was it that made a conversion. So it might be a particular location, it might be time of day, it might be a particular keyword that they were using. It might be that they visited website A, B, and C. They have like over 7 million different metrics in that algorithm to determine when that conversion happened. And so if you have enough of those, you can really like turbocharge your conversions. So
Okay. So how do I know what AdWords to spend money on?
yeah. So there's a couple different ways to go about that. Some of it is doing keyword research. So you start with a list of what you think might be like your most relevant keywords, or what your audience might be looking for. Typically, that's where I'll start, but I'll also look at your data. If you have data flowing in from your organic traffic, Google is picking you up for certain search terms, and you can actually mine that data for keywords that might have the most volume, might have the most relevancy, and keywords that you might not rank in the top positions for, but you're sending good signal to Google for your top keywords, so they make for good kind of your best opportunities to advertise for.
And will I be able to change kind of what I'm deciding to spend money on easily, or is it like a big commitment that I'm doing?
Yeah,
How does it work?
that's a good point too. So yeah, one of the great pieces to Google Ads is the flexibility. And so oftentimes we'll start with something and see what the data looks like after a month or maybe even a couple weeks. There is a learning period usually with if you're measuring conversion. So Google needs to like try things, collect data, and then you can optimize from that. But typically after the first month, then you have a decent cost per conversion worked out, and now you can try other things. You can try segmenting your campaign, try going after a particular keyword that might be showing promise, or maybe another keyword is dominating and maybe not driving as many conversions, so you want to like maybe put that in its own campaign and segment them out so you can give this one a little bit more chance to grow. So there's a lot of maneuvers that you can make to optimize. That's why having a campaign manager that knows those little tactics is important. You can get lucky and get it go right on the first time and have good success, but oftentimes it takes a little bit of prodding and experimenting, and it's always good to try and beat your benchmarks and try and get a better cost per conversion, and to make sure that those conversions are actually quality.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that, I could be a great business person in terms of running a distribution company, really know how to make my routes efficient and keep my labor costs down, et cetera, et cetera. But this whole world that we're talking about is one that I might not be real fluent in, and I understand the internet in terms of websites, and I use Google, blah blah blah. But you kind of have to think differently. Like somebody searching, one of the people that I might want is not necessarily looking for me or doesn't even know about me, but I need to think about the terms he might be typing into his search bar that I can
Mhm.
identify him and get in front of him. So,
Yeah, and oftentimes you don't necessarily know all the keywords. You might have a gut feel on what that's going to be, and Google has different match types for those keywords. So you can
mhm,
say like, I want to use these two words in a phrase, and so it might take
mhm,
in, what are the best, and then your phrase, and then some more words in the string. And so you can kind of, I like to think of it as like throwing a big net in the water to see what you're going to catch, and then you see what you catch with those little bit broader match types. And again, sometimes you can have really good success right off the bat with good broad match types, but sometimes you might pull out an old boot, you might an old tire. You got to throw those out, add them as negative keywords, and maybe change the match type on another, and then really hone and hone and hone. That's why you optimize the campaign over time. And it's kind of like I like analogies. It's like carving a sculpture. Like you start with this block and you chip away at it, and eventually it's a nice statue.
yeah, I'm fascinated by this, especially the whole idea of refining things and getting data that lets you refine it.
Hmm.
I know for some, say, smaller creators that are entirely dependent on social media for their marketing and advertising, it's hard to tell kind of what the impact of something is. Whereas here, you really get to, get data on what worked or maybe what didn't work, and then get to refine it. And
Yeah.
I just love that. So,
And yeah, and conversions is one type of looking at the impact of your ads. Having that conversion is really handy, but that sometimes doesn't tell the whole story. There's other quality metrics that you can measure too, like average visit duration and how many pages per session people are browsing to, or bounce rate. How many percent of them are new to your site in the last 30 days is a good metric. So you have other ways to like analyze quality, and sometimes you might find that you're getting, a good visit duration and they're browsing to a lot of pages, but for some reason they're not converting. And that might say something about either your keywords that you're using, or maybe it's your website usability. And maybe there's an issue there with maybe not a strong enough call to action, or an offer. So it's not just about bringing the right people to the site, but it's the closing the deal on them too. So
right. Well, the time has flown by, and we haven't even gotten to a whole bunch of topics in search engine optimization and kind of, as you say, kind of optimizing your website. I'm looking forward to having another conversation with you that gets to those topics, but really appreciate your time.
yeah, no problem.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. We'll see you later.
All right, thanks.